Have you ever noticed how a client might come into a session overwhelmed, but can't actually tell you why? They say they're tired, they say they're stuck, they might say they're reactive or foggy or indecisive. And I call this when they hand you the tangled wad of necklaces and you're sorting your way through it. And you can feel it in the room. Something just isn't organized or cohesive, but it's not actually where the problem is. And here's the diagnostic shift that can enlighten everything. In many cases, what looks like an emotional or psychological tangle is a structural one. The body can simplify this. In many cases, what looks like an emotional or psychological issue is actually a structural one. The body has lost its ability to carry load, and so everything above that, decisions, emotions, etc., is compensating. Okay, before we go further, the way that your structure experiences pressure and load and complexity will be shaped by your nervous system and embodiment pattern. We call these patterns the skins, and there are 4 primary ways that the nervous system organizes under pressure. Some bodies resist and brace, that's the warrior. Some yield and adapt, that's the shapeshifter. Some narrow and orient, that's the sage. And some widen and sense, that's the asset. These are not personalities, although they'll appear that way. They are somatic response strategies. They shape how you handle conflict, leadership, visibility, intimacy, decision-making, the moments that actually matter. So knowing your skin, it doesn't give you a limiting label. It will reveal how your nervous system responds and where your strengths and your blind spots typically live. So pause this video, go down to the description and take our free 2-minute Somatic Skins Quiz. You'll receive your initial description, so have that in hand and then come back, because everything I'm about to share on structural coherence will make a lot more personal sense when you have your pattern in hand. Structural coherence is simply whether a body can organize itself against gravity, pressure, and force without leaking capacity. When that coherence is online, breath supports the spine, attention stabilizes naturally, and energy tells the truth. When it's offline, the nervous system spends its resources just trying to stay upright, and clarity becomes nearly impossible. This is why clients don't walk in saying, "I have a structural problem." They walk in saying that they're overwhelmed or indecisive or emotionally flooded or exhausted by simple things. What they're describing emotionally is often the downstream effect of a body that can't hold itself together under demand. And when structural coherence breaks, it's almost always showing up in one of 2 ways: collapse or bracing. And once you see these 2 patterns, collapse or bracing, you'll recognize them immediately, sometimes within the first 30 seconds of a session. Let's start with collapse. Collapse isn't laziness, and it isn't avoidance, and it isn't lack of will, but those are the usual labels. Collapse of the structural system is what happens when a system loses architectural integrity faster than it can reorganize. And this is the tricky part. Collapsed clients don't always look collapsed. They may be sitting upright. They may be articulate. They may be highly competent in their lives, but internally, the structure is sliding. You'll see the breath lift higher into the chest. You'll see the spine subtly fold, even if it's not dramatic. You'll see the hips soften. Maybe the feet lose relationship with the ground. And their attention starts to spread out like it's leaking at the edges. Ask them how things feel, and they'll say that the world feels loud. Demands feel heavier than they should, and likely they have some self-judgments on that. Options feel fewer. Everything just feels like a lot. In collapse, the nervous system is doing the best it can with the architecture it has available. Under pressure, joints destabilize, breath loses its ability to support the spine, and the structure or the system reads that loss of structure as threat. So sensation spikes, emotion floods, thoughts try to justify and compensate. And this is where clients start narrating in typical dialogue-based coaching sessions. I'm just tired, I'm stressed, I think I need clarity. But the body is saying something much simpler. I can't hold myself up right now. And here's where coaching often goes sideways, because collapse looks like uncertainty, indecision, emotional overwhelm, and we respond with reflection, with inquiry, with ideas and strategies, with insights, with meaning making. And the client will nod, it'll make sense, they'll understand, and they'll leave. And they'll collapse again the next time pressure shows up, because their structure was never really addressed or restored. A body that cannot transmit force cleanly can't stabilize sensation, and when sensation isn't stable, the mind loses its anchor. No amount of introspection fixes that. What collapse needs is not more understanding. It needs form. It needs practices that restore mechanical clarity. It needs load bearing that introduces stability. It needs breath that drops low enough to support the spine. It needs pressure that reveals exactly where organizational capacity is missing. Collapse resolves when the body remembers how to hold itself again. When form replaces ambiguity. When stability replaces overwhelm. When sensation stops flooding because there's finally somewhere for it to be held and land. Okay, now let's talk about the other side of the coin, bracing. If collapse is the system giving up structure, bracing is the system overcorrecting. Bracing is not strength. It's rigidity pretending to be control. A braced client often looks together. Upright posture, clear speech, high standards, discipline, seriousness. They may even pride themselves on being composed. But look closer. The posture will be held together by muscular effort, not alignment. The breath is there, but it's constrained, pressured, shallow, sometimes even subtly held. Movement exists, but it's compressed, and there's very little adaptability. Bracing gives the nervous system a sense of safety by reducing variability. If nothing changes, I don't have to reorganize. So under pressure, bracing spikes into more tension. Under relational demand, it turns into defensiveness. Under challenge, it becomes insistence or sudden withdrawal. Psychologically, this gets misread all the time. We call it discipline or drive or high standards or intensity, but underneath, it's fear. Not fear of failure, fear of yielding into instability. The body doesn't trust that it can stay coherent if it softens, so it locks. Yielding feels dangerous because it threatens to expose what the system is compensating for. The client experiences this as frustration, irritability, impatience, a sense that the world keeps pushing back. And here's the coaching trap with bracing. We tell them to relax. And when they do, collapse is right there underneath. So relaxation feels unsafe, and then they tighten again, and the loop continues. Bracing doesn't resolve through softening. It resolves through rebalance, range, rotational patterns. myofascial release, breath depth that increases capacity instead of removing structure, postural integrity that allows movement without collapse. As accuracy increases, bracing then becomes unnecessary. The system no longer has to hold itself together because it can align itself instead. And so here's the diagnostic insight that matters the most for you as a coach. Collapse and bracing are not personality traits. They are structural strategies. They tell you exactly where the system has run out of architectural options. So if you're working with collapse and you try to coach insight, you'll get temporary relief for your client, but really long-term instability. If you're working with bracing and you push relaxation, you'll trigger the very thing that their system is protecting against. Structural coherence is the floor. When it's offline, everything above it, our energy, our attention and focus, our sense of identity, and our creative field is compensating. In the next video, we will move up one layer and we'll look at energetic coherence breakdown, how overactivation and shutdown masquerade as emotional patterns, and how you can tell when energy is lying to the system. Once you can distinguish structure from energy, diagnostics get very clean very fast, and coaching starts to land where it actually counts. If you, like us, totally geek out on all this stuff and want to go deeper, there are two ways to do so. You can check out our core curriculum in our books. I will link them below. Or you can train with us directly by applying for a season of the Prestige and experience the power of this work for yourself. Depending on when you're watching this video, we are rolling out the new season soon, so now is the time for us to connect. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. Please do consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you for the next one.